Hi, I'm Shawn Hill, Community Director at NiceJob, and in this podcast, I'm going to tell you how reviews and social proof can empower your social media.
OrthoMarketing.com, 360-degree digital marketing solutions for your practice.
Well, hello, everybody in podcast land. This is Dean Steinman from Ortho Marketing, and we are back with another podcast for you. I'm really excited today to have with me a special guest and a podcast extraordinaire. Today's guest is Shawn Hill. Shawn is the community director at NiceJob's podcast. Shawn's been nice enough to have me on as a guest, so always like to help out and return the favor. So Shawn's here, and today we're going to talk a little bit about our old favorite, social media, reviews, and being part of a community, which is so important. So Shawn, welcome. How are you today?
I'm very good, and I'll do not a little correction there, but we have the NiceJob podcast that comes from our software, NiceJob. So we're also reputation marketing software. But you came on our podcast. We're happy to have you, and I'm so happy to be here as well because I think we could really hit it off on our podcast. And so I'm glad to continue the conversation with you and your audience as well.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for joining us. I had a blast on yours, so we're going to jump right in, man. So it's right now summer of 2021. And hopefully everybody out there it's the super hot part of the country is staying a little cool, and everybody in the wet part is staying a little dry. So Shawn, let's just jump right in. So you're the community director there. So in social media and being a local business, especially for a dentist or orthodontist, you're part of a community. So how important actually is social media and being part of a community when it comes to a business and getting reviews and getting your name out there?
If you would ask me a couple years ago, it would be it's still a necessity, but almost one of those nice to have necessities, right? And then nowadays, I really think it's almost imperative that you have presence on social media and that you have a way to connect with your community in the digital space. Some of the people out there that might have practices in smaller, really close-knit communities, you think about seeing each other at the supermarket. You think about, in your neighborhoods, at sporting events, on the local standpoint. You think about all that as where you're making connections. But what we've seen over the years is even when you're making those connections and you're doing some word of mouth, or giving some recommendations, what's the next step that people do, right? They take out their phone, they'll go and take a look. Or, they'll go and they'll log on to Facebook and they'll take a scroll through there. And furthermore is that people have learned to kind of expand out from their communities. So I think especially over the past year and a half, you've seen people that love their close-knit communities, but then love the expansive world that they get on social media platforms. And so, yeah, there's a lot of things on social media platforms that are nonsense, right? Bad opinions, goofy memes and jokes and stuff like that. But at the core of it all, what it was really built on was these community connections like you and I had talked about. So if you're a business, you want to have a presence on social media. Now, what you fill that with, there's different strategies you can sort of take. But the first thing I want to always lead off with is you want to be present there. And the best way I can think of it is it's like there's a gathering. And if you're there, then you can describe or you can decide how you want to participate, right? So you can go to a party, grab your drink, sit on the side of the wall, not really interact, not dance, not do anything. But you're at the party, and if someone wants to talk to you, they'll know to find you because you're already in the room there. And if someone says something and you adamantly disagree, or you can help, or you can contribute, if you want, you can contribute. But not being on social media is like sitting at home. So you don't know necessarily what happens at the party, and you're not going to be there. But if you also want to go and be the life of the party, then social media obviously affords that opportunity as well. But it's the community gone digital. That's really what social media is. And just like our own communities, there's the good parts and the bad parts. So you want to be present in the digital community, and social media is a great way to do that.
Yeah, well said. And social media is a lifeline from you as a small business owner to the community. So based upon your experience, what sort of tips or tricks can you give somebody who kind of afraid to put their toe in the water? They post a little bit here or there. They don't want to dive all the way in because they haven't, they don't know how to swim yet, but they want to get a little wet. So as far as being part of a community, because I always tell our clients when they come on board, you have to help us help you. All right. You have to be part of a community. You have to help us. Nobody wants to look inside of somebody's mouth. So in a dental practice, all they do is they know how to take in and out pictures. Nobody wants to see inside of somebody's mouth. So they want to see smile. You're in the smile business. You want to show people how you change people's lives. And being part of the community is real important. So if you were to give somebody um, 3 tips on what they could do today to just put their toes in the water to be part of it, what would you suggest?
So the first thing is probably the most obvious, but I have to kind of lead off with it, is that you want to establish your presence, right? So if you don't have a Twitter account, go claim a Twitter account. If you don't have a Facebook page, go get a Facebook page. Instagram, just first go ahead and set yourself up on those platforms, right? And once you are set on those platforms, then it's about what are you putting on there. So if you want to start dipping your toe in, the thing I think is the easiest is you want to share stories and you want to share some insight. So there's 2 ways you can do that. It's almost like a 2A and a 2B. First thing you can do would be any reviews or any feedback you've gotten, right? Being able to take a review you have on a Google My Business and share it to a Facebook page or share it on a Twitter account. Just that alone is going to amplify those great words that your patient had said about your service and your practice, right? So from there, that's a great consistent feed, because if you're consistently getting reviews, which you should be, man, we'll probably talk about that a little bit later, but if you're consistently getting reviews, trickling them out over social media is amplifying that message that obviously you want to spread, but then also it's providing a thing we call social proof, right? Which is showing that other people are interacting with your practice, that other patients have had success with your practice. And by doing that, when people are researching through the corners of the internet and finding your social media page, you're presenting the information that you would want them to see first, right? This social proof that, hey, we are a part of this community. Here are people we've worked with in the community, or the patients of ours in the community, and here are their stories. And then the 2B would be share almost your expertise, right? I
Right?
guarantee there's something you could think of, like a tip of the day, or a fun fact about your particular practice. So it could even be, this is a technique we use and this is why we use it. Or it could be, this is James, who works our front desk. James has a corgi? This is James's corgi. And what that does is it just builds a little bit more personality within your practice, and it gives something for people to connect to want to learn more about you. So me, I also have a dog. So now I'm attracted by the picture of James with his dog, because, hey, I'm a dog person also. I want to interact with more dog people things. It doesn't mean I'm going to immediately follow your account, like, and be commenting forever. But what it does mean is that, all of a sudden get a little pain on the side there. And I'm thinking,
Right.
oh my God, I got to go call and make an appointment here. Well, you'll subconsciously, I'm going to think about, oh wait, the dog was on that thing. I wonder if they're in my, and it
Right.
connects. So it's a nonlinear connection, I like to call it. So the 2A and the 2B is, you want to find stuff to kind of share. Once you claimed it, start sharing things, and don't worry about being good. You don't have to be good at it. I know sometimes you look at social media, you see influencers or you see big brands and you see their witty commentary, or you see their perfectly crafted, graphic designer style posts. That does not need to be the standard for you. What needs to be the standard for you is wherever level you're at. So whether you're sharing reviews, whether you're typing out pictures or something like that, is just get your feed going. And then the final thing is, the step 3 of that whole thing for social presence is decide, and you're going to build towards this, what you want the goal of your social channels to be. Now, for a lot of different practices, other businesses as a whole, you might be looking for that to become a directional funnel, right? Maybe a sales funnel, maybe something that's going to help you gather, more patients. But you also could look at it as, well, we have our advertising channels, we have our sales channels. This is going to be how we establish ourselves in the community and really build that community presence. And whatever direction you decide to go, there's then strategies and tips you can take from there. But again, we're talking about just dipping your toe in the water. So claim those things, start just getting stuff out there no matter what it is. And then when you see either how long it takes to put together a post, or you start to get a little bit better idea, that's when you can start thinking about strategy. And then once you get strategy, then you'll start taking the steps to get towards those goals. But if you do those first 3 things first, sign up, be a part, and then and set a goal, you're going to be on the right step. You're going to be on the right path, and you're going to start seeing some benefits from it sooner rather than later.
Um, awesome steps, awesome tips there. So you mentioned before about taking a review, say from Google, and putting it up on Facebook or Instagram and resharing that. What do you say would be a rule of thumb is how often you should do that? Because you probably don't want it to be just for too much up, it seems like you're kind of being a little cocky, a little, presumptive that, hey, everybody wants to see how great we are. It's important, obviously, for you to share this information because it's coming from a third party, not you. But at the same time, what's a good mix, would you say, as far as how often a review should be shared on other platforms? Because it's funny, if somebody goes to a website and they see a review, it's bogus because it says, best practice ever, Mary B.
Yeah.
I mean, Mary B. But if it goes on a third party platform like Google, or even Facebook or Yelp or whatever, it's legit. So, if somebody's posting 10 times a month, what percentage of them would you say should be review based versus other stuff?
So I will answer that question by saying is you should change how much you are posting extra things based on how many reviews you're getting, because you should try to share every single good review. And the analogy I like to put into is think about like a top 40 radio station, right? Or just a radio station in general. Usually the programming of that radio station is every like hour and a half or so, especially on the pop ones, you'll start to hear the same songs come back. And the thought process is if someone gets in the car and they want to hear the hit song, they're going to tune in the radio, but we don't know when they're getting in their car to tune into the radio, right? So we don't know if they're getting in at 1 o'clock, at 2 o'clock, at 2:15, 2:30. We're not sure. So that's why you see those hit music stations, things like that. If you were to listen for a big block of time, you
They
get
would
the
open
same
up.
songs over and over
Right.
and over. And so that's when it comes to reviews. I think it's the same sort of way. If someone is on, follows you on Facebook, follows you on Twitter, they're going to understand that every single tweet may not be like exactly for them. And what I mean by that is that if someone's going to go for the first time, so they're not following you yet, they're going to see what your latest is, right? Like that's more than likely. If they go to your Twitter account, they're going to look at your top three, your Facebook page, your Instagram. They're going to go to your feed and see what those last couple ones. So, do you want those last three to maybe not be a review? Or if it happens that your last three are all reviews, well, what is that saying about you, right? Now, the person
Right.
that's following you that knows that your last three reviews, but then, I'm going to bog myself down in math here, but 10 out of your last 15 are reviews, they aren't going to be like, you know what? I'm not going to go there. They might stop following you, right? They might stop interacting with your account. But the
Right.
opinion they won't get is they're not a good practice, that they don't do quality work, that they don't serve their patients great, because
Right.
they understand you're putting out the best there, but the wave over the wave, just like the same sort of thing of if you're complaining about a radio station playing the same song over and over, you don't have the complaint that they don't play good songs. Your complaint is they don't play enough songs,
Yep.
right?
Right. Right.
So that's when
100%.
you start to shift it. So have your reviews come out as much as possible and then filtered in with some of those other types of posts I talked about. So if
Hmm.
you're posting 10 times a month and you can have 10 of those be reviews, I say go for it, right? If they're 5 star, if they're glowing reviews and that, go for it. Because guess what? Then maybe you start filtering in other posts, and then for you now have 10 posts a month that are just reviews, and now you can just post 10 times, and now you're at 20 posts a month, and you're in that social media group. And for example, like NiceJob software allows you to like automate that process, so you don't have to worry about manually sharing. If you can figure out a way in a system in place where when you get a review, you can put it out on your social media channels, that's not going to be more time for you, right? You can automate that process. So now you
Right.
have time to filter in the smiles of happy patients, the photos of your staff, the tips and tricks, the complaints about the weather, right? I mean, you're part of the community. You can be like, hey, like our floor's getting wet here in our waiting room because it's raining outside. Like, we're
Right.
happy for this to stop raining just as much as you are. All that sort of things that kind of grow with it. You'll find that if you're having a consistent process of posting, it becomes less time consuming even as the number goes up. So my answer is if you have a good review, you should be amplifying it anywhere almost as soon as possible. And the last little caveat I'll add is by constantly posting reviews, you don't get into what ends up being an unknown casualty of sharing your reputation. Is like you talked about. If you see that review from Mary B, if I see it that 7 times I visit your site, I don't know if it's 30 years old. I don't know if it's 2 weeks old. So the more
Right.
you're replacing your reviews with fresh and new ones, it gives more relevancy, which does help you on the search engine side of things. But more importantly, in my opinion, on the community side of things, where people know that you are relevant and not just living off of something that some great words you got 10 years ago.
Right. Smart. Smart. Interesting tip there. So if you had to give somebody one bit of advice as far as how to get a review, okay, what would you suggest they do?
I thought about that for a while, and sometimes my thinking sounds like a loud truck outside, so I don't know if that's particularly coming through. Now that I'm done thinking, yeah. So about how to collect reviews, the first step's actually obvious. You have to ask. In this particular sort of situation, I find that practices feel like asking for feedback or asking for a review is almost like an overboard request, or asking too much from the patient. And I would love to kind of press on that of, it's not like you have the right to review. That sounds like a bit too aggressive, right? But it's almost you have the duty to ask for a review, because you want to improve time over time. If your practice is about getting better with each patient and getting better, year over year, month over month, week over week, then that feedback is going to help you guide, your practices and how you're doing things. So you want to ask almost every single time. Now, if you have regular patients that are coming in, weekly or something like that, it's not necessarily you have to ask every single time they're in the door, but I would definitely ask after, the first time that you interact with a new patient. I definitely would ask maybe after every 5 times, every 10 times, if they're willing to update their review or leave it on another platform or something like that. Because just by asking, you'll be surprised at how much more you'll get and how many people actually would like to give you feedback. And it builds good things within your team itself to understand that the work that you're doing, we want to always make sure it's the highest quality. And people want to be at a practice, both as a patient and, as a practitioner in that sense, that always has that we're raising the bar time after time. Then the key element to that is when you're asking, make it easy for them. So obviously, NiceJob software, we make it really easy for you to do that. I'm not here to pitch that in that sense, but the easier you can make it. So if you're not using a software like NiceJob, it could be, finding your exact review link and making sure that it's a clickable, easy thing for them to do. It could be, hey, we're gonna follow up and send you the exact instructions and make sure it's kind of good to go. You just want to make it easy for them. Again, maybe bias. I do think software that does all for you is incredibly simple, but just have that process in place, whatever it's sort of been. It'd be almost to take it out of the review space. If I was like, hey, Dean, would you sign my guest book? It's a lot easier if I then hand you the guest book than if I say like, okay, well, here's what you need to do. You go 2 miles that way, you're going to make a left, and you're going to put in this code. You're going to, right? And
Right.
so you want to make sure you're asking. You want to make sure you're making it simple. And then the final thing about trying to really gather them is, because you are sharing them, publicly displaying them and highlighting them, just doing that alone by showing that, hey, we're not just taking your review and going reading it behind closed doors. We want to share your story, or at the very least, show and have an understanding of your reviews. And if there's something that comes up, perhaps a narrative or a topic that comes up in a lot of your reviews of like, I love these, they're so quick. I wish it was a little easier to book, but I love them. I'll never go anywhere. Well, if you start seeing that not as easy to book, see that start coming out like more and more and more, that's when you want to make that change, because that shows to your community that this isn't just feedback for vanity's sake. This isn't feedback for marketing's sake. This is something we're actually building in as a core value of our practice. And because of the relationship we're building, just like when you build relationships in your community, everything gets better because of that. So, make sure you're asking, because you absolutely should be. Make it easy for them to do so. Then actually do something with the reviews. Don't just use it as just straight vanity metrics.
Great bit of advice. All right, 2 quick questions for you. We wrap up here. You have the ability to put up a billboard in Times Square. 5 million people are going to see it today. What's it going to say?
Well, I'm going to resist the urge to put up a Philadelphia-centric billboard in New York and just stoke rivalry a bit more.
Okay.
It's funny. I think about what I would put up there, and I'm a big proponent of having fun every day, finding ways to kind of enjoy things. My sign off for the podcast is I want you to be healthy, I want you to be safe, and don't forget to have a little fun out there, because I think fun and positivity really kind of sparks that. But I almost, if I want to kind of align it together, it would just say, like, if you're smiling, I don't want to say that, it's too much, but I almost be like your efforts are making this community great. And that's the big thing it would say. And the reason that I push that message a lot, and I don't want to put it like if you're smiling, because I don't, I'm not a force people to smile type person, But when I
Right.
say your efforts are making this community great, is because, the reputation, what you're building, especially, if you're a business owner of any sort, a practitioner of any sort, and you're actually serving your community in some sort of way, you're making your community great. That's why, as humans, we like to live in proximity to other humans. Even the most introverted person doesn't want to be completely by themselves forever. They like that sort of at least connection, with culture and things like that. So your efforts are making this community great because effort requires work, and effort requires a little dedication, right? Because there's a lot of people out there with lack of work ethic that still have jobs, but the people that have effort and put in that little bit of ethic, those are the ones that are truly making our community great. So that's why I love for the whole world to see. So that if you think that maybe what you're doing doesn't matter today, just know it actually does.
Great, great. All right, last two more questions. All right, we have one extra one after that. Um, you just got a tweet that an asteroid is hitting Earth in 2 hours. What's your last meal?
I don't know. Perhaps something covered in a protective metal to keep me safe. No, you know what? I don't necessarily know what's on the menu.
Anything you want. Anything you want.
Well, I'm gonna say it's like for me, I'm less worried about the menu and more the company I keep. However, I will throw it out there as I would like a delicious pizza with a big old side of French fries. I'm a classic guy in that situation. I'm an East Coast guy now out here on the West Coast. I've learned to make my own pizza just so I can get that correct. But
Right.
yeah, give me a big old pizza and a big old plate of French fries, and I'll watch that thing come down and end us all.
Exactly. Awesome. All right, and the most important question of all: Reese's peanut butter cup or Hershey bar?
You know what? I'm going Hershey bar.
Okay.
I do like some good peanut butter. I like it a little bit more subtle signs the peanut butter cup gets. But
Good.
yeah, let's go Hershey bar. Keep it classic.
Cool. Great. All right. So now time for a shameless plug. So if anybody wants to reach out to you, get more information about Nice Job, what's the best way for them to do so?
So you can go to our website, get.nicejob.com. That's probably the easiest way to do so. You can check out the Nice Job podcast and hear, the episode that we did, but a couple others. But also just drop me a straight email, Shawn, spelled correctly, SHAWN, @nicejob.com. I can tell you a little bit more about myself. I'd be glad just to give you some advice on some of the things you're doing. And if you want to learn about Nice Job as well, I can facilitate that. But I'm all about connections.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Shawn. And everybody, if you get a chance, please check out his podcast as well. It's a great podcast. You can find the link in our notes below here as well, so you can see a little bit more about them. So, Shawn, thanks so much for joining, man. I really appreciate it. This was a lot of fun. Look forward to doing this again with you. And everybody out there in podcast land, thanks for listening. And Shawn said, even though he didn't really say so, smile today. It's important. Smiling is good. As I said many times before, and I'll keep saying it again, as the great Jerry Garcia said, nothing left to do but smile, smile, smile. So keep it going, guys. All right. Thanks so much, everybody. Be safe. Have fun. Bye-bye.
Orthomarketing.com. 360-degree digital marketing solutions for your practice.